What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the NCAA tournament betting preview for Friday's slate. I'm Stucky, and joining me today, my fellow BBOC co-hosts, Mike Calabrese, and the one and only Josh Nunn, aka Duck. If you already missed it, myself, Greg, and Christian went through every game on Thursday. Today, we will go through every game on Friday chronologically. Two matchups still TBD. Who cares about the one seed? We'll touch on potentially the other. But we have 14 games to go through. Help you fill out your brackets, find some potential winners. I will say, from a betting perspective, Friday is my. I prefer. I have more games. I think I'm going to be betting on Friday than Thursday. I do like the slate, so can't wait to dive in with you boys. I will give you we'll give our Final Four championship looks at the end of the show. I will give you an opportunity. I'll give you 30 seconds to share something you like for Thursday, if you'd like. Um, I will say one thing I forgot after the podcast. There's always something I'm like, "Oh, I wish I mentioned. In the St. Louis game, Robbie Avila's plantar fasciitis. That's something worth mentioning, at least with his foot. Like how, because he's going to be an important piece to drag Cyril out. But like, how healthy is he? Can he go full go? That's something that just can flare up. So just wanted to mention that. Uh, Calabrese, I'll go with you. Anything on Thursday you want to mention?
So there's two games that I like same game parlays because I feel like they're correlated events, and it's Hawaii plus the points and under 161.5 against the Hogs, and then St. Mary's laying the 2.5 and under 148.5 against the Aggies. Hawaii, I do think they're going to go zone. I think they have no choice. You can't leave Acuff in man-to-man with no help. So I think it's going to be a different situation, not something that they put on tape all that much this season. So I think we're now relying on Calipari to have those in-game adjustments. Not necessarily the best track record in the world in the NCAA tournament doing that. And then from the St. Mary's perspective, I've seen this before with Randy Bennett. I know how he's able to impose his will in terms of tempo. I think this one is already graded out with the sports books kind of leaning, and showing their hand a little bit that they believe that the Aggies are going to speed this game up, which if that's how they felt, I think this one should have closed closer to a pick. So I'm going to go ahead and take the correlated events plus 250, plus 265 in the market. Either one of those prices is good, both on the Bows catching points and under and the Gales laying 2.5 and under.
Yeah, A&M's turnover rate is evaporated, and if they can't get that going, Mary's, as they so often do under Randy Bennett in big games, should be able to control tempo. I don't mind that look. Duck, anything you want to mention for Thursday?
Yeah, I like Wisconsin's team total over 87.5 against High Point. The Big South is on an 0-5 against the spread run in the NCAA tournament. High Point plays very, very fast. They're going to press almost 94 feet, almost exclusively the entire game, if not three-quarter court. They're going to gamble defensively, and good luck turning the Badgers over. Wisconsin commits turnovers at the third fewest rate in the country, and Greg Gard has these guys playing faster than any Wisconsin team ever has. These guys made 15 threes against Michigan. They can shoot, they can get to the rim, they can get to the stripe. I just look at Wisconsin's point totals against some of the elite defenses they've played this year, 90 or more against Illinois twice. 97 against Purdue, 97 against Michigan State, 91 against Michigan earlier this year. I just feel like Wisconsin is going to be able to shred this High Point defense. I think stylistically it's a bad matchup for High Point. High Point may hang around and keep it within the number if they can match the scoring, but I think Wisconsin surpasses the 87.5, and I think they push 100 here.
Wisconsin probably a very good live bet if they get down early. To a runny team. All right, let's move on to Friday slate. Let's kick things off. First game, we'll go chronologically. 12:15 Eastern on Friday on CBS. You can already hear the music. Nothing better before that first game. Kentucky taking on Santa Clara. Kentucky's a 3.5 point favorite, total 160.5. This opened lower. Kentucky took a lot of early money. Been some buybacks since. I think there'll be a little bit more Santa Clara money. I will tell you personally, Kentucky gets another early tip. Early tip. You got to be kidding me. We can't have joy here in Lexington, so Kentucky's probably losing. I don't think it's a great matchup for the Cats. Santa Clara will pressure you, will extend their defensive pressure, get in the gaps, and they can match Kentucky with their athleticism. Santa Clara is a very, very good team. Love Allen Graves. This team is dangerous. Kentucky. The problem is I can't figure out Kentucky. Like they are a strange nut to crack. They're also very streaky. Additionally, they they will start games countless times this year. Start games horrifically, and they get down, and then they'll mount a comeback. And but then where there's a little bit of a wrench in here is the committee didn't do they didn't do me any favors, or my wife, I should say, with this tip time. But they didn't do Santa Clara any favors. This is a 9:15 a.m. local tip or 10:15. This is an early morning tip in Missouri. You know Kentucky's going to have an enormous fan base presence there. So Kentucky fans are going to travel, and so they're going to have like a slight home crowd effect. The early tip, who gets out to the fast start here, and how does that impact this game? I will. I know you guys don't really have any strong takes here, Mike. Do you wanna? I get at 3.5. It's Santa Clara or nothing for me. Do you have anything you want to add?
I just want to add this. If anyone's on the fence and they're thinking about going with Santa Clara, this has been a special year in the WCC. They sent three teams to the Big Dance, so they were tested throughout their conference schedule. And when you look at the non-con, they played some really good mid-majors who ended up making the field and low majors. Like they beat McNeese. They should have beat St. Louis, and that's when St. Louis was white hot to start the season. They tested themselves against, some Big 12 teams as well. So in terms of the shock, the athleticism that they're going to see from Kentucky and the brand of basketball, I don't think they're going to be out of their depth. Now, I'm keeping my money on the sideline for this one. I don't have any official play, but I just want to give a little bit encouragement to anyone who's thinking about backing the Broncos in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you just filter and look at these teams versus like elite competition, tourney teams, top 100, top 50, I mean, Santa Clara has been the better team. They have the more reliable 2-point offense. Uh, and
They're good on the offensive glass
yeah,
too,
I think
which,
they'll
which
win the
is
shot
usually rare.
volume battle because I think Kentucky will struggle with their pressure. Kentucky will turn the ball over. Santa Clara can, uh, I think, at least battle them even on the glass, win the turnover margin battle, and as a result, win the shot volume. Claudia, now both these teams are streaky though, so like this could be a good live betting game. Like if Kentucky does get out early, I would like to bet back Santa Clara live. The whistle will be important because Santa Clara, with their aggressive D, does foul frequently. They need to avoid foul trouble. Kentucky is a team that is going to get to the line, and if you got their home crowd contingent forcing a friendly whistle, that could have something that could have an impact on this game. I don't have a strong take, but at 3.5, it's Santa Clara or nothing. Uh, Duck, what do you got here?
Yeah, I like Santa Clara, very well coached, and a much more formidable WCC team for to square up against Kentucky here than you might think. I would worry though about Santa Clara and how much they're going to crash the boards because their transition defense is poor. So if Kentucky wants to run on these guys out after misses, if you got all your guys trying to get offensive rebounds, Kentucky might have some transition layups here. So should be high scoring or at least the ability to have that with some higher tempo. And thinking it's a game that could come down to the wire.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the second game where we have some stronger opinions. Akron, Texas Tech. Texas Tech, around an 8-point favorite, total 156 and a half. This game will tip at 12:40 Eastern on True TV, and this will take place in Tampa, Florida. There's a lot of talk. This line opened a bit higher. Akron has taken some money. Every single year, you're going to hear about, oh, this is a trendy underdog. Um, I can tell you, I've been doing this been betting college basketball for over 20 years. Uh, there will be trendy underdogs that get demolished. There will be trendy underdogs that win. If you like the game, bet it. Um, I mean, I can point to countless examples both ways. I will say Akron is a trendy dog. Also, sometimes dogs are a little trendier than people think on Twitter because Twitter is an echo chamber, and there are people that like a bet initially, and then everyone just follows along. So keep that in mind as well. Twitter's a very, very, very small percentage of the actual betting world. But Akron on Twitter, Akron is trendy. I love it. It was first, first bet I made in the tournament. Said it right when the draw came out that I like Akron. Don't care that it's trendy. Now I will say, like Akron is a team I wanted to bet in the dance, and Texas Tech is a team I wanted to fade. So I was like, oh, okay, perfect. They got matched up together. Now I will say, this Akron could get the Akron could lose this game by 25 if Texas Tech is red hot from three and Akron is off. I mean, you're going to get lots of 3-point looks from three against Akron. Their perimeter defense is not great, and Texas Tech is one of the best shooting teams in the country. Now, Akron still has even if Texas Tech's hot and scoring, Akron still has the capability of matching them here. I mean, Akron is also one of the best shooting teams in the country. Tech does a better job of limiting looks from the outside, but their pick and roll defense is sad. It's very, very poor. I think in like the 17th percentile nationally, which is something that Akron can take advantage of with Tavari Johnson and company. I mean, this Akron team has legit high major athleticism with the Mahafis, Lyles, Johnson running the show. There are seniors all over, and then you have some guys who are just absolutely dead eye shooters. I mean, Lyles can step out in the pick and roll in the pick and pop. He's hitting 38%. He's been cold lately, so it'd be nice to see him. I think he went like 0 or 1 for 14 in the MAC tourney. It'd be nice to see him hit one early, but uh, Tavari Johnson hits near 38%. Shema Scott, who hit that crazy step back to win the MAC title, he's over 42% on the year. And then Bowen Hardman is just that guy out there to stretch the defenses. He's a tough shot maker too. He's at 42%. So this team can flat out score. And I just don't. Now they want to play fast up and down. There's probably gonna be runs in this game. I'm just not sold on Texas Tech without JT Toppin. I think he's that important. I think he would be just a massive issue here for Akron if he was playing with his passing ability and in the pick and roll because Akron struggles defending pick and roll as well. But you look, I mean, they lost Toppin. They made some adjustments. McCaslin's a great coach, and look, he's going to have 8 days to prepare. So I respect him. But John Gross is also a good coach, one of the best against the spread that we have. He'll make great in-game adjustments as well. So this is a really good coaching matchup. MAC teams have done very well as 7+ point underdogs in the tournament. I will say, like, so when you look when they lost Toppin, lost them against Arizona State. They played the corpse of Kansas State and blew them out. They had an impressive performance against Cincinnati, and then they went to Iowa State. I think it was like a 20-point shot quality loss. Like they just made every shot, and then they lost at home easily to TCU. They lost at BYU, and then they were destroyed against Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament in a game that was never competitive. And I think that part of that was you're seeing the impact of the loss of Toppin. So this should be an exciting game to watch. There's going to be shot makers all over. If Texas Tech is on fuego from start to finish and Akron is cold from three, Tech will win by double digits. But I'm willing to back Akron. 8 or better, I think is fine. Like where this open 9-10 is where I'd have it with Toppin. So I'm fine backing here. And look, Texas Tech, what if you want to talk about a team that potentially could be in for maybe some 3-point regression? Now look, they've been shooting 40% all year. But I don't think that they can I just don't think that they can maintain that level. I know they have great shooters without Toppin and his passing ability and the attention that he draws. And if I just look, I mean, 3-point net delta since February 1st, a lot of this is without Toppin. Texas Tech's running plus 11, plus 11%, which means you take what they're shooting from three and what other teams are shooting. They're plus 11%. So, yeah, I mean, the only team higher than that running better is Howard at plus 12.8%. So, in a game where there's going to be some 3-point variance, maybe that regression crashes down on Texas Tech and favors Akron. I like the Zips. I'm trusting Gross. I'm trusting these seniors. I'm trusting Tavari Johnson. Great guard battle with him and Christian Anderson, one of the best in the country. Mike, you agree?
Yeah, I'm on Akron here, plus 260. And you hit on all the major points, but just to kind of get into the weeds on what Texas Tech has been like without Toppin, I mean, he was Rodman-esque on the glass for them throughout the entire season prior to the injury. And since his departure, they've fallen outside of the top 300 in defensive rebounding percentage. That's a major problem when you pair it with the fact that since he's left, they can't turn anyone over, 358th in the country. So it all becomes dependent not just this game, but however long their run is in this tournament on Christian Anderson, who's now nursing a groin injury because he slipped on that
And it means
glass.
Akron can match him shot volume wise.
Right, exactly. And I mean, listen, he's embraced being the star go-to guy. He's averaged over 37 minutes per game, 14 shots without topping in the lineup, which the shots and the usage aren't necessarily the problem. The problem is that there's also been an uptick in his turnovers. He had a three-game stretch where he turned it over 18 times. And Evan Mia like dives into every single kind of stat that you can get into. He graded him out as a D in terms of the turnover issue with him. He's in the 11th percentile of point guards in the entire country. So he's going to score the basketball. He's going to facilitate for his teammates, but he's also going to help Akron keep it pretty close in terms of the extra possession battle in this game. So I agree. I think if we can just get 35% from long range from the Zips, it's going to be a sweat in the final 4 minutes of this game. So I'm going to go ahead and take him on the money line.
Duck.
Same side. I think John Gross, he's been to three NCAA tournaments in a row now. This is his best Akron team. And I think, McCaslin has been so bizarre about the tempo with this team this year. And at times they've run, but they've really truncated the pace the last 8 games of the season, let's call it. And I really think they're going to miss Toppin here against the Zips. When you look at Akron, this is not going to look like a MAC team. They've got dudes at all five positions that can rebound the ball well, they pass well, they can shoot. And I could see Akron with their pace really wearing on Texas Tech. Texas Tech plays
No
fewer
depth.
bench minutes than anybody in the tournament. Only 6% of minutes come from the bench. It's like 19 minutes per game from the bench. And you get those guys in that situation, and if they're in the game late and they start believing, Akron is at their worst when they're a big favorite. They seem to get bored, they get disinterested on defense. That will not be the case here. Akron's showing up, and they will look like a much different team than when we saw them in the MAC tournament. And Shama Scott and Tabari Johnson can shoot it from the logo. The defense can match up well. If they can guard the 3-point line just a hair better than they had all season, I think Akron's right there. So same side, plus 7.5.
Think of these locker rooms too. Akron is ascending. This is their moment. They win the MAC. They win the tournament.
Well, especially after being down that whole game.
It
Yes.
was
Like, and
unreal.
then coming back and winning's got to be just like they got to feel like they're playing with some house money here.
And then to flip it for Texas Tech, they had the best collection of wins in the entire country. They beat Arizona, Duke, and I'm missing another one, Houston. Like they clearly, with Toppin, had an opportunity to win the national championship. And maybe they're probably saying all the right things. And Christian Anderson can play like an All-American. That's great. They're not winning the national title, so that has to be, a thought at least in their heads, if not being said in the locker room. So I think if things, go against them, whether it's whistles or a cold shooting streak in the first half, I think it's going to be easy for them to get down emotionally. Where Akron, as Stuck put it, playing with house money.
Yeah, I don't mind the sprinkle on Akron either. Or advancing them. There's a lot of 3-point variance in this game. Like I also wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech won by 20, like I said. But I like the Zips. All right, let's move on to the next game. 1:35 Eastern on TNT. We have the 1:16 matchup between Arizona and Long Island. Arizona's taking a little bit of money here, up to a 30.5 point favorite over the NEC champ. Total 150 and a half. These aren't my like I. There are once in a while I like a 116. Like I really like Siena at plus 29 and a half. Stylistically low possession game. I'm not in love with laying 30 and a half. Like I just but if I had to, I probably would. I won't be betting this game. This is a horrific matchup for Long Island. So when you look at Long Island, they have to score in transition and at the rim. Well, let's look at their opponent, Arizona. Rim defense, fourth percentile allowed. Efficiency in rim defense, 99th. Okay? Well, maybe they can get out in transition. I don't know how because they're not going to get any rebounds, but Arizona's transition defense, 98th percentile. I don't know how Long Island scores or gets a rebound or anything. So, yeah, like Long Island needs to force turnovers, get out in transition. They have like attacking wings. They also turn it over a bunch, which is going to fuel Arizona's transition. I mean, this is just a matter of like I'm close to the number. So like, how much does Arizona care at the end? Is there like a run late? Like I think the only time Arizona's given up two 10-0 runs all year, two kill shots. One was to Iowa State, and then one was when they played it was super early this year. It was when they played Norfolk State, which they won 98-61. But I think Norfolk State closed the game on like a 14-0 run. So like something like that, like that's how Long Island could cover this game. Like Arizona's not even 3-point reliant. So like you can't even say like, oh, Long Island can hang around if Arizona's not making threes. It's a bad matchup for Long Island. Obviously, a 116 is always gonna be bad, but like schematically, this is ugly. Uh, so I would lean Arizona. Duck, you have a strong take on this game?
I do. I like the under at 151, 150 and a half. We're still okay. And Long Island's team total under 61 and a half. LIU has no choice but to really truncate the pace down. Rod Strickland is a good coach in the NEC level, and he's really built the Sharks team on defense. Trust me when I say offensively, they cannot shoot. Long Island cannot shoot threes. They shoot fewer threes than anybody in the country other than 10. They're 355th in three-point percentage. They're not going to be able to get to the rim here. If you look at the guys that are the prototypical scorers on this Long Island team, Malachi Davis and Jamal Fuller, they need to be able to procure effective paint touches. Not happening here. They're not going to be able to make threes. There's just not a lot of scoring prowess on this team. This happened not just once or twice. This was on numerous occasions for Long Island that they struggled in league play against Stonehill, Wagner, New Haven to surpass 60 points. I don't think there's any way that they even sniff that here. You already mentioned Arizona not being reliant on the three, and I take it a step further that it's preferred that they don't shoot the three, and they don't shoot a lot of them. So we're not going to get the barrage of 3-point shooting on either side here. And then looking forward to a bout with Utah State or Villanova looming, I just don't see any reason why Arizona is just putting the throttle down. When you get to the under eight timeout in the second half and they're up by 25, it's low and slow, grind out the possessions, do everything other than take a shot clock violation. Long Island is really, really going to struggle. This is an atrocious matchup for them. So team total under 61 and a half, full game is also one I believe strongly is going under.
Cowboys got anything to add?
Yeah, I got an exotic here because it's difficult to find any value on the Arizona side. But how about this? Arizona to never trail in the game, plus 105. Long Island's 216 in Ken Palm. Arizona played six teams in that neighborhood or worse. They went 4-2 in the never trail department. Now, the race to 10, by the way, just for a frame of reference, is Arizona minus 700. Race to 15, Arizona minus 1200. Race to 20, Arizona minus 2000. So
Yeah, I mean Arizona's going to win the tip.
right, exactly. They're going to win the tip. You get that first possession, and then you're just hoping that you don't give up a three to LIU the other way. I feel pretty good about this one. I was surprised to see it, priced out at plus money.
Love that. I will bet some race to tens on some long shots. I like doing that every year. I know Mark, friend of the show and fellow co-host Jim Root does that. Looking down the board, who would I like first to 10? Santa Clara, Kentucky, I had no idea. Just because start time, Kentucky usually starts slow. Start time for Santa Clara, no clue. Akron's an interesting one because of the variance. Uh, Texas Tech might also be a little bit rusty. Long Island, no thanks. Wright State, let me see. Is there any Hofstra? Definitely. This is for Friday slate.
How about Cal Baptist? Would it stun you at all if our dude Dom goes off, hits a couple threes early? Kansas is traveling across the country. Cal Baptist is driving 45 minutes up
Yeah,
the
that's not a
road.
bad one. Furman's not a bad one. Uh, and neither is Queens actually. Like Queens might give up 100, but like Purdue a little like just rusty early. Queens hit some threes. It's not the worst one. Like I could see that being like 10-8 at the under 16, and then Purdue goes on like an 18-0 run or something. Um, all right, well we'll talk about those games in a bit, but let's move on to the let's move on to the Midwest region. 3 Virginia versus 14 Wright State. This will tip off at 1:50 Eastern on TBS. This game will take place in the city of brotherly love, my hometown.
I'm going to be
Uh,
there. It's going to be good times.
you're gonna be there? All right.
I will be there.
18 and Virginia favored by 18 and a half, taking some early money from open. Total 44.5 has come down a bit. I I think Wright State's in trouble here.
Big time.
There is there's just I don't know how they're going to like their defense. Their half court defense is not great. Now they do grade out well against the press. You're going to see some press from Virginia, which is a positive. But this is a Wright State offense that's very rim reliant, and good luck against Virginia. Um, like they grade out the 94th percentile at the rim, 20th percentile frequency. I mean, we just saw Cam Boozer go 3 of 17 against Virginia. I am Wright State's going to have to make some threes here, which like they are capable of doing. They don't really shoot threes often. They want to get to the rim, but I mean, they when they do, they make them at 36%, but it's in the horizon. And you're getting a lot of open looks. You're playing some zones. So I mean, TJ Birch has been a really good story, the Ball State transfer. But this is Virginia or nothing. I think this is Virginia by 25 plus, as long as they're focused and hit a reasonable number of shots. Let's see. Which one of you have a hot take here? Duck, hot take from you here. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, to echo the sentiments, Wright State team total under 62 and a half, 63 and a half. When you look at how Wright State profiles offensively, they try to get to the rim, they try to get to the stripe. They need to procure paint touches to get shots from in close. Absolutely not going to happen against UVA here. Look what those guys did in the middle against Duke in the ACC championship game. 14 rejections between Ugana and Johan Grunlow. It's you're not going to be able to penetrate the lane. Wright State's not going to get to the stripe. They shoot fewer threes than anybody in the Horizon League, and they have one player that averages two or more made 3-point shots per game on the season. It's just not a schematic matchup that favors Wright State having some good looks. I really could see Virginia turning this into a defensive slog. And if the Wahoos are up by 20, 22, 25 in the second half, there's going to be no pace. It's one and done for Wright State, who will get eaten alive on the boards.
Yeah, and that's one of
Real
their
tough
strengths usually
matchup.
when they're playing teams on their level is the boards, but that's just going to be wiped out by Virginia, which hurts.
Yeah, it would be a fun team against another opponent, but this is schematically a poor matchup for Wright State and one where I just do not see this team getting into the mid 60s. I would say I would go as far as to say they may not break 55. So strong value in my opinion on the Wright State team total under.
Calabrese, anything to add here since you'll be here?
Yeah, I'm going to lay the 18 and a half. You guys hit a lot of it. I mean, from a Cinderella perspective, I want you to bring someone to the table that's special. You know, maybe you're great from three, you take a lot of them. Maybe there's a tempo difference. This Wright State team is like moderately slow. Do you play a unique defense? Not really. Do you have a star player you can rely on? Michael Cooper's good, but he also had seven single-digit performances in his past 17 games. So if he disappears, they're going to get absolutely boat raced in this one. And then the final piece of it is when UVA had an opportunity to step on teams' throats this year, they did. They beat Rider by 34, Hampton by 28, Marshall by 26, American by 44. This isn't like the Tony Bennett slow it down and not score. They're going to go over 80. They poured it in for 81 plus in 5 games in, the last month or so of the season. And a lot of those big offensive performances came against tournament teams like NC State and Miami, Florida. So I think this team is just way too good on both ends of the floor. And given the history of UVA early in the tournament, and Odom of all people would know about it, I don't think they're going to sleepwalk into this one and let Wright State hang around. I think they're going to hit some haymakers early and then just build out a lead into the 20s in the second half.
All right, moving on about an hour after Wright State, Virginia, we'll have Tennessee State and Iowa State kick off in a 2:15 matchup. This will take place in St. Louis. Better believe there's going to be some Iowa State support there. Iowa State is a 24.5 point favorite, total 148.5. Tennessee State is a led by Nolan Smith, very athletic team. Like they have a ton of athleticism when you watch them. You're like, wow, this team. But this is not a great matchup for them. I mean, this is a team like very aggressive defense. They'll press, extend pressure, they'll trap, but the offense is, I mean, it's pretty ugly. It's like they want to get to the rim, dribble drive. There's a lot of ISO, mid range, and in order to beat the Iowa State defense, you need to swing the ball and have shooters hit threes on the weak side, and you need to stress their D. I mean, this Tennessee State offense is 345th in the country in three-point attempt rate. And when they do shoot them, they don't shoot them well. And they're 331st in assist rate. That's not a good combination against this Iowa State defense. So there's a lot of, I mean, there are times Iowa State can turn it over. I mean, Tennessee State, that's their MO. It's like pressure defense. That's how they won a lot of games in the OVC. Iowa State can be turned over a bit, so maybe that can get Tennessee State going and transition some. But I also think that Iowa State's going to turn over Tennessee State, and they just don't. They're going to foul a ton. I mean, one of the paths to a cover is Iowa State's been so bad at the line here. And if you look historically, teams that shoot 77 plus percent, if you just blindly bet them over 20 years, you're at like 63% against the spread. Actually, I'll tell you the exact number. Past 20 years, teams shooting over 77% from the line, 101, 61, and 2 against the spread. Blindly betting teams that are elite from the line. For what it's that you're 62.3%. For what it's worth, teams that are over 77% this year, Iowa, Houston, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Illinois, Vandy, St. Mary's. Iowa State's not that. They're 340th in free throw percentage. And Tennessee State is going to foul a ton. So that is how you lay 24 and a half and don't cover. Iowa State misses 10 free throws. And then they're just their fouls turn into empty trips. So I don't think I can lay 24 and a half, but I have no interest in Tennessee State. Easy pass for me. I don't believe you guys have anything here. Anything you want to add, Duck?
You know, I will say if you're really trying to squeeze a little value out of this game, I think the fouls are coming and you should have plenty of opportunities for Iowa State from the stripe. They don't make a lot of them. They're a poor foul shooting team. Tennessee State is going to provide a little pace here and try to run with Iowa State. I could see a first half over. I don't want to bet a second half over because Iowa State in the last 6 minutes of games really throttles down. And if they're up by 25 or 30 points, they're not even attempting to get serious good looks at pursuing more scoring opportunities, which could also lead to a backdoor. But I could see a first half over. I could see Iowa State putting up 45, 48 points in the first half and being up by 15 to 18 at half. So maybe a look there, but nothing strong.
Mike, you don't have anything here?
A part of me wanted to like mess around with Momcilovic's threes, maybe go under because it's a blowout. And I thought to myself, well, he's so good at home. You know, it's probably a bit of a drop off when he shoots on the road. He still makes 44% on the road. So I can't touch a player prop in that regard. So this is just a full pass for me.
All right, let's move on to Hofstra, Alabama, one that's been in the news a lot. Alabama's down to an 11 and a half point favorite. I think it opened at like 10 and a half, got up to 14, got bet down with the Aiden Holloway marijuana news, had a couple pounds on him. I do not think he will be playing here. Alabama currently 11 and a half point favorite, total 159 and a half. Mike, you have a strong take here. You like the dog?
Yeah, well, you got to go with the dog here. I think this is potentially just too much to overcome for the Crimson Tide because Holloway being their second leading scorer, but also their best three-point shooter, nearly 44% from deep, that changes how you can play and how you can help on, Phylon and when he drives the hoop. And the question is Hofstra positioned to pounce on a potentially wounded Alabama team? I think absolutely, because they're on an 11-1 run. They're well balanced offensively. They're rapidly improving defensively. There was an earlier episode I was on with Stuck, and we talked about this. This was a defense that just wasn't all that special for the first half of the year. And when you look at it since February 1st, they've been a top 5 effective field goal. They're making it very difficult to score at the rim. I think they have the makings of a real Cinderella to not only win this game, but make a deep run because essentially, when you look at it, in terms of their defensive efficiency, since February 1st, they've risen all the way to 32nd. And when they defend the three-point line well, you just don't have any options in terms of how to score on them. They're approaching 32nd nationally in defending the three-point shot. So if they are able to hold Bama, let's say below 85 points, do they have the guards to be able to get the points, to hang with him. I think they do. They got the CAA Player of the Year in Cruz Davis. They got his backcourt mate Preston Edmeade. As a duo, they scored 41 points per game through the CAA tournament. So they're hot coming in at the right time. Cruz is that multi-level scorer. And Edmeade really got more confident with his shot as the season progressed. He was a freshman, so it took some time for him to really take over. He made some big shots in the last month of the season. And what we know about this Alabama Crimson Tide team, they're a lackluster defensive outfit. They're more interested in running and gunning than, grinding out half-court stops. So I don't know. I think this is all trending against Nate Oates, a team that I think they're trending in the wrong direction. And when you look at it, if you can hold them below 85, certainly below 80, because if you go below 80 on Bama, they're 1-4 straight up this season. So it just becomes a situation where they don't know who they are or how to win necessarily a variety of games, where Speedy Claxton's team, I think, can win in a couple different ways. It won't just require them to knock down 15 three-pointers here. So I'm going to take who I thought was the class of the CAA the whole year. They had that lull in January where they lost 5 games. If anything, it just brought them together. It galvanized this team. And like I said, they're playing really the best defense of any mid-major coming into the tournament.
Yeah, rim defense has been the top three over the past month or so in the nation. They're going to play drop coverage, which isn't great against the Bama pick and roll, which is their ball handlers 97th percentile frequency, 99th percentile efficiency. But you got Phylon, 92nd percentile in efficiency. Holloway, 95th. Dealing with both of them off of the dribble was going to be a problem. Now there's a big drop off now to Allen and Wrightsel, not having to worry about Holloway and his shooting as well, especially like in transition. And it's just, and then the distraction of it all, right? Like all of this that Bama has to deal with on top of all the other hoopla during the first week of the tournament. That's potentially problematic. Yeah, this is like a jump shooting contest because Hofstra's not going to score at the rim, which is where Bama's weak, but Bama is a shot volume clown. Like that, they are a screaming red flag of we're going to get upset because they don't defend. They have major issues defending, and they're a shot volume clown because they will foul too much at times, but they don't get on the defensive glass and they don't turn you over ever. So like Hofstra could win the shot volume battle here, and then this just becomes a jump shooting contest between the backcourts, and Alabama lost one of their best the week of the game. I like the Pride. Duck, anything to add?
Guys, I'll be honest with you. I don't know that I've won a Hofstra bet all season, so I will happily sit this one out.
Utah State Nova. I mean these two teams are trending like this. Like Nova faded at the end of the year. Big East was super weak. They lost Hodge, who I think they miss. But Utah State that you can't zone Nova, so I doubt we stay. They kind of abandoned the zone after UNLV torched it. Utah State will throw out some zone at times, go 1-3-1. I have no idea on this game. Like I couldn't figure out the Mountain West all year, and Utah State is an enigma to me. I can never figure them out. They also can't hit free throws. Whenever I bet them. But to wit, you go to Haslametrics, you pull up Utah State, they're dead last in the country in consistency, which makes perfect sense to me. I cannot figure them out. I have nothing on this game. Duck, you got anything here?
I mean, there's a
I'm
little
picking
bit of
Utah State to advance. I know that. And the Mountain West, but also the Mountain West has been atrocious
garbage.
historically in the tourney. Like I could make cases for both sides so easily.
Yeah, Utah State has a small travel edge. They don't have to go as far. Probably got in already, and Nova's going across the country, but they're so Jekyll and Hyde, Utah State, and so inconsistent.
Yeah,
And
this is in San Diego, by the way. Sorry.
against every Mountain West opponent, their games were highly volatile. You could see them win a game by 20 one night, lose by 20 the next night, getting blown out by UNLV. It was just bizarre. And so for that reason, I'm going to pass on this one. I just really, I don't know if I'm getting A plus or C plus from Utah State here.
Yeah, that's probably why I'll have Utah State advancing. West Coast, we're trending up, Nova trending down. And this is played in Viejas. Utah State's very familiar with this arena. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean the familiarity of the venue. I think they have the better guards in this one in Collins and
I know fans that travel.
yeah. So I agree. It's scary from a one game perspective because they've been so Jekyll and Hyde. But if you like Utah State, I think this is a potential for a ladder because if Nova doesn't get off the bus, they could lose this one by double digits. And I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Tennessee will take on the winner of Miami and SMU. Duck, you potentially interested in SMU if
I
SMU
would
beats
be.
Miami?
Yeah, it'd be fun to sweat that one out tomorrow night. You and I have a ham sandwich bet on that. I think SMU
What's your
does.
number?
I don't care whatever we
No,
decided.
would you
Seven,
lay?
7.5, 7.5.
Well, I took 8.5, so we could both win.
That will.
It could land 8.
Well, then we'll both push.
No, I'm saying yeah, we'll both push, but we'll both be happy as well.
Yeah, we both. Yeah, that could work. Let's have it
Yeah,
land on 8.
let's root for 8. Well, unless Cowboys, you have another number.
No,
Okay.
I'm going to let you guys have at it here.
All right, go ahead, Duck.
Yeah. Boopy Miller, quick off the dribble and should be able to get to the lane against Tennessee a little bit here. Jaron Pierre has made 5 or more threes in 4 of his last 5 games. The guys in the middle, Samet and Jaden Toombs, I think really can compete well with Tennessee if they were to advance. And SMU has top end talent. I mean, they took Duke to the wire in Cameron Indoor. It was a 3-point game with 2 minutes to go. They were tied with Virginia on the road with 90 seconds to go. They've got wins over Louisville, UNC, A&M. I think that we've seen teams use the first four as a springboard in the past, and I think if SMU can build a little confidence, I like the way their defense has been playing. They really competed well in the ACC tournament defensively. Yeah, I think SMU would have a chance to beat Tennessee.
The problem is how healthy is BJ Edwards? Their defense is not
We don't
the
know.
same without him, so we'll find out some more there. They've been playing a lot of zone down the stretch to fix some of their defensive issues. The problem is if you zone Tennessee, Tennessee will have 447 offensive rebounds. That's
Best in the
what so
country.
I'm interested to see what they do schematically. But before we move on to the next game, I'll throw to myself for a word on our sponsor, Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the US. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, it's time to move on. I do hope that Tennessee whoever game is good because then if not, there's always that lull where you either like are like, oh my God, why did I bet that team earlier after you had a bad afternoon, or you're like excited for the night's slate. But there could be a lull when there's just that game going on before we get to prime time.
If it is Miami of Ohio, by the way, immense. I can't take a prop bet any harder than that. Like, give me the points, give me the rebounds, give me the combo. It's stuck in my head that performance by the Miami defense against Ohio, that overtime game that they almost lost. Simmons had what, 30 and 9 in that game. What is it meant going to do to them? I'd be licking my chops for that one in the player prop market.
It would be a dunk layup line for Tennessee. Uh, Iowa Clemson kick off the primetime slate, 6:50 Eastern on TNT. This is the 8-9 matchup, which will take place in Tampa, Florida. Iowa 2.5 point favorite, depending on where you look, total down to 128.5. This is a grinder game. Neither team allows anything in transition. This will be played in the half court. I like Iowa. I will, my handicap There is some looming 3-point regression for Iowa. They've been extremely unlucky of late, so that could help, but it's not my main reason for this handicap. The first reason is Clemson's pick and roll defense against opposing ball handlers, 20th percentile, 82nd percentile frequency. That's bad news against Bennett Sturts. The second reason is in a half court grinder, right? Like one of Clemson's advantages usually is they suck the life out of games and they don't let you get in transition and they just that's Iowa's perfectly fine with that. That's how Iowa wants to play. So in a half court grinder, I trust McCollum more and I trust Sturts, the best player on the court, to make a few more plays. Clemson also they lost one of their bigs to an injury last week in Welling. I think that hurts here. And Clemson won't overwhelm Iowa with its athleticism, which is something where Iowa is lacking in. Now, the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause is if Clemson ups their press rates. Like Clemson plays slow, but they press you to kind of slow the game down at times. They will extend pressure. And I mean, on the year, they pressed. I mean, among the higher rates in the country, they're around 15% of the time, which is 86th percentile, and they were very good, 90th percentile. Uh, and when they press, they don't press to speed you up; they press to slow you down. That's why they're 90th percentile in the last 4 seconds of the shot clock forced. So they have a 99 percentile half court, press to half court rate. But will that lead to some more turnovers against Iowa? Because Iowa's been bad against the press. Like they're vulnerable there. They don't see it a ton in the Big Ten, but they struggled some with Penn State, with Maryland. And then in 20 plus press possessions against Michigan, they scored 0.55 points per possession. The worst team in the country against the press is Sacramento State. They scored 0.69 points per possession. That's the one thing that gives me pause. But this will be close. It'll be lower scoring. I'm just going to trust McCollum and trust Sturts to make enough shots. Give me Iowa. Duck.
Yeah, I like the under. I think we'll see both of these offenses operate comfortably as we get deeper into the possession clock. Iowa is so buttoned up. Oftentimes teams when the clock gets under 5, they panic. Nobody moves within the offense. It's four guys out standing around waiting for someone to take a shot. But Iowa just continues to run their stuff, and Bennett Sturts is so comfortable with the ball in his hands when the clock gets under 3, and he can get to 12 or 14 feet, and he makes those shots off. And so I do think execution-wise, Iowa will have a better chance to do that. Both these teams are going to play slow, and we're going to have these grinded out, elongated possessions. I think that favors Iowa. I really like the under. Now, if a team gets up by 8 and the other group has to play out of desperation, that could blow up the under. Clemson can press and they can try and speed Iowa up a bit, and then the foul game starts or whatever else in the last 4 minutes. But I think it's an under trend. I wouldn't be surprised if both these teams are in the very, very low 60s, and Iowa should win this game.
Also, mention the free throw against Sturtis that Iowa qualifies elite free throw shooting team. Clemson at little
Mid.
significantly worse. I think they're around 72%. Iowa is at that 77% threshold. And in the game, low scoring grinder could make all the difference. Cowboys, anything to add?
Sub 130 total inside of one possession as a favorite. And in the market, you can get it 15 to 1 to go to overtime. I think this is one to take a shot at. There's not many games in the round of 64 that I think potentially could be destined for OT. This is one of them.
Continuing on in the night slate, Northern Iowa, the 12 seed, will take on the 5 seed St. John's, 7:10 Eastern tip on CBS in San Diego, California. So we got some travel here for both teams. You and I, extended break. What are they going to look like? They were red hot. That's definitely a concern, but they should be well rested. They're well coached. Catching 10.5 points here, total 131.5. I love you and uh, I look, the athletic St. John stopped pressing at the end of the year. They've really reduced their press rates. They could up it here and just say like lean into their athletic advantage. That could be the difference here. And they could just be too powerful, too athletic. But I just think this is too good of a matchup for you and a nightmare matchup for St. John's. Now again, the athleticism and talent advantage could supersede that. And But here's what UNI does. They pack it in on defense, which means they force you to beat them from the outside. They're really good on the defensive glass. On the offensive end of the floor, they're very well connected. They're, they're senior laden. One of the, I think they were third in minutes continuity coming into the year. They had some injuries early in the year, so like I think they're just underrated in general, which is why they made that charge late in the season. They missed Tristan Smith for a while, and they were just a different team without him. Uh, so, but on the offensive end, they're never going to try to get an offensive rebound because they're going to get back and prevent transition at all costs. I think the only team in the country to allow a lower transition rate was Minnesota. So what do? They make it difficult to score at the rim. They're good on the defensive glass. They make you shoot from the outside. They pack everything in. I mean, we're talking elite rim defense. Don't allow transition. These are the paths that St. John's usually scores in. And then they execute on the offensive end. They're not going to be afraid of this team. I think this is a really bad matchup for St. John's. Now, St. John's, maybe they make their outside shots. They're not a good shooting team, but they're overdue. There's some interesting three-point regression potential here on both sides. Like St. John's has been ice cold from three of late, which scares me a bit. I mean, if you look, uh, if you look since February 1st, St. John's has the largest decline in the tournament. They've shot 28.7%. Before then, they were 35.8. And they're going to get looked. So, like, that scares me a bit. But their defense has been extremely lucky. Their defense, since February 1st, teams have shot 27%. Before then, they were at 34%. So, which one gives? That's very interesting. Northern Iowa has been shooting the lights out of the ball, so maybe there's some potential negative regression there. But it kind of evens out on St. John's side. But we'll see if they can make shots. If they do, it's probably problematic for Northern Iowa. But that's not the strength of St. John's. That's what you want to force them to do here. So I think this is a really, really good matchup for Northern Iowa. And then catching like double digits in a game with a total that's 131 and a half. UNI, baby. Mike, you love this as well.
Yeah, I'm going same game parlay. Give me the points and under 132 in this one. You made all the points that are salient in this one. Glacial pace from the Panthers, 363rd in the country. They got that pack line defense that allows them to rebound on the defensive glass at an elite level. They rarely foul, 15.5 fouls per game. That's 37th in the country. And Tristan Smith also being back in the starting lineup, it's not just a boost to their defense. They're fourth in effective field goal percentage offense since February 8th. So that's given them enough to be able to score, to hang around. It's not just enough to stop what St. John's wants to do in the half court, because really the Red Storm, it's all about the extra scoring chances. They're plus 5.5 per game. That's top 10 in the country and 34th in fast break points. Northern Iowa is perfectly equipped to limit them in both departments. You also got Ben Jacobson, a five-time Missouri Valley Coach of the Year with 4 NCAA tournament wins. This is his ninth game coaching in the tournament, so he's not going to be thrown off by this venue. And the venue, too, it's not a good travel spot to go from MSG Game of the Year energy to maybe a sleepy start. Maybe Northern Iowa can be up, 2015, at the 8-minute timeout in the first half.
Which is going to feel like 10 in this game.
Exactly. It's just going to be one of those games that St. John's needs to create their own energy and juice, and UNI is going to do everything they can to throw cold water on it. So 11 and a half, I think was too much, grabbing it at the top of the market. I still like it at 9.5, 10. And 132, I just don't necessarily see, even if UNI falls down by 8 to 10 points, they're not all of a sudden going to abandon their game plan and start pushing it and start firing threes left and right. So I think this is another correlated option from a same game parlay perspective. Plus 260, I think is plenty of value.
Yeah, and there part of me also thinks that like St. John's might be a little bit overrated here. Like peak of, peak of the market after what they did in the Garden, in the Big East tournament. But I think UConn, I think Villanova is barely a tournament team. They deserve to get in, but like they are not great. I
I
think
know that
UConn.
Seton Hall isn't an exact comp by any stretch, but it was 65-60. That feels like this kind of game for the Johnnies. Like they're going to be happy to get out of it. I think they have a better chance to play their version of St. John's basketball and win going away against Kansas than they do against UNI.
Yep. But the Big East just might be extremely, like really, really bad this year, which is like propping up St. John's a bit. Because St. John's, I mean, can we look at like, yeah, they look great in the Big East. They're on fire. Uh, Out of conference, they lost to Auburn on a neutral. They lost at home to Alabama. They lost to Kentucky on a neutral. Um, their best, they lost to Iowa State on a neutral. Now, granted, they were right in that game, but their best non-conference win was on a neutral against Baylor. So, like, they didn't light the world on fire in the non-con, and then they took advantage of a historically bad Big East. Stuck, anything you want to add?
I was initially worried about UNI being out athleted by St. John's in the press, and then I looked further into it. And while the Missouri Valley is not a league that you see a lot of press in, UNI has seen their fair share of it. They saw it against Murray State. Bradley does that.
Yep.
They've seen it, right? They've even Valparaiso pressed them a hair higher than you might have ever suspected that in their games against Valparaiso. So Scott Nagy did a little bit of that with Southern Illinois. So UNI has seen it, and they broke the press fairly well against those teams. And to support the under position, when UNI breaks the press, even if they have a man advantage in the front court, they're holding the ball back and they're waiting for their guys to get up into the front court, and then they're setting up half court. So
Yeah,
not
to
a lot
your
of
point, when they've
transition.
been pressed 87% of the time, they it became a half court possession. 13% of the time, they tried to score in transition.
Yeah, and in the NCAA tournament, when you're playing on that court with the NCAA logo and it's in an unfamiliar venue, they're pulling it out and waiting for their guys to get down. It's going to be low and slow here, so I can definitely see the position on either the under or on Northern Iowa.
All right, let's. Yeah, I like you and I. Anything down to 9. You'll know right away if they can't handle the athleticism, but and then if St. John's is making threes, like just tip your cap. Uh, you just got to do that when you bet college basketball. Like if Sandin comes in and he hits 5 threes, like all right, move on. Uh, let's head to UCF, UCLA. That's a tough one to talk about because we just don't know how healthy. I think Dent's going to be okay. Mick said Dent's okay, but Bilodeau, he said he needs a couple days. I don't know what that means. He's obviously super important for a surging UCLA team. I think UCF can do some damage on the glass. They've been running very poor from three, like, and you're going to get 3 looks from UCLA. I could see them finally finding their shot. I mean, what were they like 3 of 23 against Cincy, and then like 3 of 20 against? I mean, they couldn't make a three all weekend in the Big 12 tournament. Uh, so at the current number, I would lean UCF. UCF maybe in a money line shot. You could. I'm so conflicted on this game just because of the injury uncertainty. Villanova is that important, I think, overall. But if UCLA is healthy, man, they could do some damage in this bracket. I just don't know enough. Uh, so this is a as of right now a pass for me. You guys don't really have anything here. Do you want to add, Mike?
No, I'm good. I'm putting myself in Mick Cronin timeout until I can finally get a game right. Even in the Big Ten tournament, I got hooked with Purdue laying the 7.5. So I've been able to figure out UCLA.
So,
If you look at the travel, and they've got to go to Philly and UCLA heading east of the Mountain Time Zone, it's been poor this year. It's looked really, really jerky for UCLA, and Central Florida has athletes that can absolutely compete in this game. I don't really have a real robust take, but I'm not laying in this spot for sure.
yeah. All right, before we move on, I do have to ask you guys a question. What is March known for? College hoops, obviously. Spring training baseball? Yeah, that too. But it's also known as the time when we have one of the absolute best deals on Action Pro of the entire year. So head over to actionnetwork.com/pro to get 6 months of Pro for $49.99. Get it now for access to all of our picks as soon as we log them in the app. No more waiting 30 minutes and getting potentially stale lines. We'll also have NCAA player props powered by our analytics team that smash it every tournament. Shout out Nick Giffen and Sean Kerner. Again, that's actionnetwork.com/pro to get yourself signed up today. Player props alone make that deal super worth it. All right, let's move on to let's go Queen. We're going to talk a little Queens, Purdue. Purdue obviously surging. Purdue also, for what it's worth, the best neutral site team in the country. Like they've had some problems at home, but I mean, look what they did on neutral. They ran through the Big Ten tournament. They blew out a healthy Texas Tech team by 30. They beat Auburn by 30 on a neutral court. I mean, this team on neutral courts, they are number one in overall efficiency in neutral court games. This game will tip at 7:30 Eastern on True TV. Purdue, the 2 seed, is a sizable favor, 25.5 points over Queens. Total 163.5. It's come down a bit. Just a bit surprising to me. Queens runs beautiful offense. They have shooters all over. Just great cutting motion. Like they run great offense. The problem is their defense is an absolute sieve. I spent, I don't know, way too much time, bro. I'm spending hours upon hours and slept in 3 days going through every one of these games. The amount of time I spent on this game, I tried to find one thing that Queens does that could I'm like, oh, this is how they could get a stop. I don't know how they get a stop. I mean, their defense is embarrassing. I mean, just to illustrate how bad it is, Queens played 5 power conference teams. Only 3 of them went to the turn. Of 3 of the 5 were tournament teams. They allowed an average of 102.6 points per game. Everyone cleared 94. I mean, Purdue, it's just like, even if Purdue's off from 3, they're going to get every rebound. It's going to be a layup line. I mean, I don't know how Queens gets any stops. Now, their offense could maybe cause some issues for Purdue with their bigs, and they have some guys who can shoot, but they just can't get any stops. I know Matt Painter is 0-1 straight up as a favorite in this range in the tournament. No one saw the Fairleigh Dickinson upset coming. I will say that. Sometimes you just never know in this sport. But this is the best off. The Queens gave up 100. I mean, it's shocking how bad their defense is. Queens gave up to the non-tournament power conference teams that they played. They played Auburn, they gave up 106. They played Wake Forest, they gave up 111. Now they're playing the number 1 most efficient offense in the country. So, I mean, Purdue can name it here. I do think Queens can have some offensive success. So, I don't know. I lean over here, even though this under is taking some money. Duck, you got anything here?
It's like you read my notes verbatim. All those scores I was going to outline. Queens is going to get incinerated on the offensive boards. Purdue should have wide open shots, plenty of trips to the stripe, plenty of possessions to get over their team total as well, as Queens is going to play really fast. I think Queens can be more efficient offensively in this game than you might think. I like the over. I like Purdue's team total over. I won't be stunned at all if this is 110 to 85.
You got a prop here looking at, Mike?
I do. I mean, everyone who's been watching Purdue through the Big Ten tournament knows that Oscar Clough, either he got healthy, he got in better shape, they just started using him more.
He
Something
looks great.
switched. He looks really good, and he averaged 17 and 10 across those games in the Big Ten tournament. He's going to eat here, and the combo on points and rebounds, if it's anything south of 23, I'm on the over here. You talked about all those games that Queens got absolutely bombed by power conference teams. How about their game against Nova? Because if you're looking for a comp, Duke Brennan, they're big, 17 points, that's fine, 20 rebounds. I'm going to see something. It's definitely a double-double for Clough. And I think that Queens can score enough that he's not heading to the bench very early in the second half and then, not to be seen again for the rest of the game. If he can get some solid minutes in this game, I think it'll be easy for him to cruise past, the mid-20s in terms of this combo prop.
Painter also has to take this seriously. You can't risk losing to, you can't pull your guys too soon.
Not after what happened in Priors.
Yeah. So, by the way, in Painter in the tournament, one of the best of all time against the spread, 27 and 14. Doesn't get enough credit. No Hurley. Hurley's 17 and 3. He's covered 14 straight. We'll get to that game in a bit. There's also, I don't know, I haven't seen many people talk about this. Did I? I haven't even dug into it, but the TKR shoulder, is that an issue again? That's one thing I'm worried about with Purdue. Like at the very end of the game, he hurt it, and that's been an issue in the past. That's another potential for your if they don't push him as hard, if it is actually an issue, that's something else for your Clough prop. Um, but I haven't seen anything. To be frank, I didn't really dig into an update. But I haven't seen an update. He said it's fine in the post-game interview, but I don't know. It's been an issue in the past. Purdue should be able to name their points. I mean, we're not going to talk about this game. Florida will take on the winner of Prairie View and Lehigh. You're going to have an angry Florida team, an angry staff. Bet Florida on the open. I think they'll win by like 45 here. Um, that one's going to get ugly. Who has a better chance of upsetting Florida, Clemson or Iowa? Neither.
Yeah, I don't like either of those matchups.
I mean, the bigs, Iowa's bigs will get eaten alive. That'll be bad. And then Clemson, that's what they'll miss again. They'll miss Welling. They just don't have the offense. Yeah, hard to see Florida getting upset there. Stark's got to go for like 48. All right, let's move on to the night slate. Cal Baptist, Kansas. Kansas 14 and a half point favorite against the WAC champs, led by Dom Daniels, the electric point guard. So happy to see him go to the dance. Like he could have transferred easily, decided to stay loyal, and he's rewarded with a tourney experience. This is a guy, one of the heaviest usage players in the country. Pick one of the heaviest pick and roll offense. Like it's just Dom Daniels spamming pick and roll. He doesn't have much help around him. They do have some size inside, but if you can take him away, it can get ugly for the Cal Baptist offense. And I, I think Kansas, their defense should be focused here. There's a trend out there that you'll hear like teams off a 20 plus point loss in their conference tournament playing in the first game of the NCAA tournament. Historically, have been about 65% against the spread going back to 1990. Kansas fits that bill, and that's one that makes sense to me. Like Self was benching guys in the second half of that game, like sending messages. You should get Kansas's best effort here. I did bet Kansas. I'm kind of souring on it though. I don't know. I might buy out some. Just like I do think that they'll be able to limit Daniels. Now Daniels is capable of going off. Like he had 47 in a game this year, but there's just so much Kansas length. But Kansas is kind of like a shot volume loser. They're not the same team away from home, like bottom 10 away from home. And this is a 9:45 late start. There's it can't Cal Baptist is going to want to shorten the game down. So yeah, I do think they have the length to throw at Daniels, and then just where does Cal Baptist go for offense? But I don't know. I'm kind of souring on. I have a bet on Kansas minus 13 and a half. I don't feel as great about it as I once did, but I do think it's a tough matchup for the Cal Baptist offense. Uh, Duck, you got to take here.
Yeah, I like the under. I like Cal Baptist team total under. I love Cal Baptist. They're a great team. It's been a fun story. I'm glad they won the WAC. It's going to be a real cool thing to see them in the NCAA tournament. The travel is easy for them, just an hour up the road. Kansas has to fly across the country. So I could see, we talked about the race to 10 props. If you can get a real juicy number on Baptist, I could see them maybe having a hot start. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Dom hits a couple threes early, but the Kansas length is really going to be tricky in this one for Cal Baptist. You're not going to get a lot of productivity in the post. And for the Lancers to stick around in this one, it's going to take 35 or 38 points from Dom. And I just don't know. These are bright lights. This is something none of these players have ever done before. And you get onto this stage where Kansas goes every year and they've got all the guys that have been there before and Cal Baptist hasn't. And it just could be one where it looks really worse on offense than what it actually is for Cal Baptist. I think their defense can hang in there for a while, and the defense is going to limit a little bit of the post and kind of what Kansas wants to do with the ball entry in the lane. Neither one of these teams really wants to shoot a lot of threes. I know Dom makes some threes, but really nobody else shoots a lot of threes here. And Cal Baptist turns the ball over at an alarmingly high rate,
Yeah, that's
278th in the
big push
country.
pull here. Kansas never forces turnovers, Cal Baptist turns it over all the time. What gives? Now it's a lot like now you're playing Cal Baptist because if Kansas is turning over Cal Baptist, they're going to destroy them in transition and get so many easy buckets and then go on a they're going to go on runs and get easy buckets and then I think it's lights out. Uh, and by the way, since February 1st, Cal Baptist is making 38% of their threes. Before then, they were a 31% three-point shooting team. They're not a great three-point shooting team, and they're going to need to make threes here. But, yeah, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that the idea for Cal Baptist is that they're going to try and crash the offensive glass here, or they're going to get toasted in transition. So you're not going to have a lot of second chance opportunities. You're going to have one and done possessions. This game should be played at 63 possessions or less. I think it's an under. I think it's a 72-59 type of game when all is said and done. Maybe 74-59 so
Thank
Kansas
you.
can cover for you.
Thank you.
And I think it's an under. I think it's a Cal Baptist team total under. I think that they will not embarrass themselves. I think it'll be a respectable showing. Maybe they're down eight late and they just can't get a bucket in the last 2 minutes or something, and Kansas ekes out a cover. But I think this is an under.
Yeah, I mean, Cal Baptist is an elite rebounding team, and Kansas doesn't turn you over. So, like, from a shot volume perspective, that's what worries me. But is Cal Baptist going to be able to have that rebounding strength against Kansas?
Not on the
I
offensive glass.
Yeah, so like I still like Kansas. I just there are some things, the start time that worry
And if
me.
Dom goes off for 35, you tip your cap and move on.
Yep. Anything you want to add, Mike?
I was kind of flirting with the idea of because there's some markets that are offering these kill shot runs, 10-0, 15-0, 20-0 Avalanche stuff. But the 10-0 for Cal Baptist was only 4-1. I think I need like plus 750 minimum to get into bed with a situation like that. So it's a pass.
All right. Let's move on. 10 Eastern, 10 p.m. Eastern on TBS. We have another 2:15 matchup. Connecticut will take on Furman. This game will take place in Philadelphia. Should get some UConn fans there. UConn's up from an 18.5 point favorite and open up to 20.5. Total 136.5. Kind of leaning Furman. Now they don't turn teams over, which is like one thing you want to do against Connecticut, but this is like a 314 to me. And I think this line's too high now that Connecticut's taking money. Like I think Furman's better than a 15. They had some injuries. They just weren't the same team without Bowser, who was incredible in the tournament. They're big. They actually have two Bowser's brothers on the team, in Cooper and Cole. And so they had some injuries, and they're very well coached. Uh, they have they're fifth in average height. So like they have the length that like to match up with some of these teams. And like I this UConn team is more like a three to me. Again, we talked about the Big East. I mean, how many times we got to see this Connecticut team like go down to the wire with the dregs of the Big East and like have underwhelming performances? And they just always take money. Um, they just this roster's kind of flawed. Like I don't know. And they also play really slow. They just don't have enough creators, which is kind of what you need against Furman. So I don't know. I think Furman can hang in there. Bob Ritchie's a good coach. We'll change up the defenses a bunch. The only thing that worries me, and which like there's a chance Furman puts a scare into UConn. Like you never know what UConn team you're getting. I'm sure Hurley. I mean, look, Hurley's covered 14 straight. He's 17-2 against spread. It's probably asinine to follow him to fade him after a bad loss in the Big East tournament. I'm sure they'll be focused. But like, would it shock me if Furman's up at the half? No. The wild card here is Alex Wilkins, who is one of the most talented point guards in the country for a freshman, but is super volatile, like incredibly volatile. Like he had a game against East Tennessee State where he had 11 turnovers. Um, and then he had a game recently, we had 34 points. He's had, he scored 33, 34, super talented kid. But he also could go, I don't know what to expect from him. He could go like 1 of 9 on bad threes that lead to Connecticut runouts and have 7 turnovers. And then it's lights out. And they need him to be good here. So that's a huge wild card. On the number now that Connecticut's taking money, it's dumb. It's fool's errand to fade Hurley, I know, in the tournament. But I lean Furman on the number right now. Uh, Mike, you got anything here?
I'm just a little bit surprised because, for a 2 to 3 year stretch, and Tanner did a great job writing this up for Action Network a couple years ago. UConn, their offensive sets were unique. They were fresh. They were getting people open. They were constantly in motion. It was like a Swiss watch in the half court. And I understand that their primary ball handlers have left a lot to be desired this year, but it just looks like they're stuck in the mud in the half court and they don't know what they want to do. And Luke Murray was supposed to be this, assistant coach genius who was going to be destined to have any head coaching opening that he wanted because he was basically in charge of that. I just haven't seen it. So UConn's just a pure stay away for me. Really, from that Marquette game on, I hopped in live on that game when they fell behind on the road, and I figured to myself, like, they'll figure out a way. They're not going to lose to Marquette. And I was just overwhelmed with how poorly they executed the half court offense and that performance against St. John's. I know that the Johnnies made some back-breaking threes in that game, but like it was really because they just couldn't generate enough offense in the half court. That's unlikely to be the case against this Furman team. It doesn't mean they're necessarily going to cover the number, but I need to see UConn play a really good 40 minutes against a quality team in the round of 32 before I reevaluate where they are because they're on the downslope here, and I agree with you. They're playing more like a 3 or 4 seed than a two.
Yeah, I think I will be betting UCLA if UCLA is healthy against UConn in the second round. Although UCLA cannot defend off the ball. Like, go look at that Minnesota game. But I don't think that Connecticut's slowing down UCLA at full strength. Um, all right. Duck, you got anything there?
Well, I mean, at this point in the show, let's pour one out. Last time Furman made the NCAA tournament, Stan Van Gundy lost his life savings. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at the video because it is unbelievably legendary. Find the video of the last shot where the guy heave hosed the ball into the front court like it's a grenade. Get the announcer reaction video because it is really pretty funny to watch. Stan Van Gundy's reaction, just stunned when Furman hits that
Legendary
shot. But
comeback by Furman.
legendary comeback from Furman. Since that point, the Southern Conference has been decimated and dissected by NIL and the portal. This once premier, firmly cemented mid-major league is now like below the ASUN and way, way down. Furman has been better since they got some of their guys back from injury, but I worry about how good this team is, and I worry about how efficient they'll be offensively. Both these teams are going to play very, very slow. I don't know if I want to lay it with UConn. I'm not trying to suggest that, although I don't want to step in front of 14-0 ATS run, 14 in a row against the number for UConn in the tournament. I've said this far too much today. I probably lean under. I feel that maybe if Furman hangs in there, it's because their defense, which is a little bit funky to start and can do a bit of unique things to maybe turn UConn over or create some looks for UConn that they really haven't seen. I fear that Furman misses shots. That they maybe go on a long stretch of 7 or 8 minutes where they can't buy a bucket, and that would be good for an under and bad if you're wanting to back the Paladins here.
All right, final game, Missouri, Miami tips off 10:10 Eastern on True TV in St. Louis, Missouri. 10:10 tip in St. Louis. Why didn't it? Weird. You got like a
Should
West
have
Coast tip. Yeah,
They
weird.
messed up the tip times there in San Diego and Missouri for
But
sure.
7:10, and the 10 seed gets to play in Missouri, huh? Against Miami. Interesting. Missouri will definitely have a home court advantage here in St. Louis with a heavy fan presence. Miami is a 1.5 point favorite. Missouri is taking a little bit of money. Total down to 147.5. If you can figure out Missouri, better man than me. I can't figure them out. The similarities between these teams are stunning. This is like a true coin flip game to me when you include that Missouri's playing in Missouri. Like you look at this matchup, both teams will throw out some zone. Like Gates will mix up a lot of defenses, but teams have zoned Miami all year and they've been bad against zone. That could end up being the difference. But, both teams are really good on the offensive glass. Both teams can get to the line. Both teams it's like a bruising inside player that can take over a game. Bruising front courts here that are going to battle. Both teams struggle from the free throw line. They like almost have the same exact free throw percentage. The differences might be that Missouri's worse on the defensive glass than Miami, and Missouri will turn it over a bit more. But I don't know. I can't fit Missouri's. They're tough to figure out. Probably. I might throw them in a round robin for some action. I do not have a strong take on that. I think this is a dead. I think you're going to see a ton of zone from Missouri. which could be effective. But then they're going to get crushed on the offensive glass. So, yeah, a lot of I could make a case for either side. There's a lot of similarities between these teams. Um, so, it's a pretty good 7-10 matchup. It's unfortunate I missed play in St. Louis, but it is what it is. Mike, you got to take here.
Yeah, I think their tempo numbers explain why this total is under 150, but I just view it as Miami's been an ATM on overs all year, cashing over 61%. And when Mizzou games do go over, they go way over the number. In their last 8 overs that they've cashed, it's crossed over the closing total by 11 and a half points per game. So I think if I'm going to be right on this one, I'm going to be really right. And it's not a bad way to end the round of 64 to be able to cash an over with like 5 minutes to go in regulation. I think if the shots are falling, and I mean, there's a lot of elements on both of these teams that are high variance from personnel perspective, but particularly with Mizzou, when you look at kind of the burst and the potential takeover ability of a guy like Barrett, he has some 20-point games out of nowhere. They certainly need a little bit of that to pull out of this late season offensive funk. You add in the fact that they're playing in front of a super partisan crowd that's going to be kind of juicing them up, at least in the early going of this game. I think we can see some scoring, the ball go through the hoop, and maybe these teams play a tick faster than they have when they've struggled a bit offensively. So 147 and a half doesn't scare me away. I'll go over.
Duck, you got anything there?
I looked extensively, and I don't feel like there's much of an edge in my opinion. I want to back Missouri, but they've been so inconsistent down the stretch. I think both these teams are real close in getting into that top echelon part of their conference, but there's a lot of weaknesses, and who can exploit those weaknesses, what teams show up. So I'm going to pass here.
All right. Good stuff going through all the games. We do have one final order of business. Your final four right now and your national champion. Do you have an update? An updated final four in chat?
I do have an update. I'm keeping the same Final Four, but I'm putting my faith
Which
in Arizona.
was
It was, let's see, Duke against Houston and Arizona against Michigan. So 3 1s and a two. I'm going to go with Houston over Arizona in a rematch. I'm a little bit concerned with Michigan's, ball handling. Cadeau is not someone who really wows me, and he is in a shooting, funk. I don't think it's going to hurt him in the first weekend, but when they get to that second weekend and the competition starts necessitating that he knocks down some perimeter shots. And plus, they don't have much depth behind him. So I'm going to go with an Arizona team that it's just a cherry on top if they can make threes. They don't take them all that often. And in a tournament where we've seen all kinds of weird things, tight rims and overinflated basketballs, sometimes you want to move away from those 3 point dependent teams, particularly for those early landmine kind of games. So I think Arizona is probably the safest bet in the entire tournament to make it to the second weekend. And then from there, I think they're going to be able to get it done. But I'll go Houston over Arizona in the Natty.
my 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 main bracket, which I'll enter into a lot of like high stakes pools. It's my main like I'll have other contests where like you have to enter three, so I'll have a couple of secondary brackets. My main bracket right now, which I think I will change, but it's this I don't think I will change. On the right side of the bracket, I have Michigan, and I think that they're just walking to the Elite Eight. Um, and I have Purdue, and I have Purdue beating Michigan again. Purdue going to the championship. On the left side, as of right now, like I don't trust Houston. Um, I have Illinois, but am I gonna have an all Big Ten Final Four? Um, I could see Illinois, but as of right now, um, I have Vandy, and then in the top left, as of right now, I have Kansas in the East. So my Final Four would be Purdue, Michigan, Vandy, Kansas. Purdue winning it all. It's for a very high stakes pool though. Like high stakes pools where I'm just taking some shots, but at the end, my thinking on the East is like I would take Duke, but the injuries give me pause. And if Peterson gets hot with that defense, like now the shot volume, the away from home stuff does give me pause. But you got a Hall of Fame coach, first maybe the first overall pick in the draft and a team that certainly has shown it can play up. But then, like, I don't trust Louisville. I don't like this Michigan State team. I don't like this UConn team. I actually would consider UCLA in the Final Four, but I just don't know that they're fully healthy. So the East is like, I need some more information. I might change my East pick. It might end up being Duke, but um, if I can get some more insight on their health. And then I'm taking a shot on Vandy. So my Final Four is, as of right now, Purdue, Michigan, Vandy, and then either Kansas or Duke or maybe UCLA. I'm still trying to get some injury stuff there. Duck, how about you?
I'll be honest with you, I really don't know how to answer this. I'm so undecided, but I will give our listeners this.
Are you going to do
There
your
are,
main pool right now? If you entered it, who would your champ be? Do you have like a consistent champ that you're rolling with? I'm rolling with Purdue in my high stakes ones. Like, there's not gonna be a lot of people pick it. Like, I'm just trying to get some uh
I think the champ
leverage
will
there.
come from the 1 or 2 line, and I would probably. I think Duke is very strong. I think Arizona is very strong. But I do want to give the listeners this. There is a book out there that's offering some goofy exotics, and one of them is to bet the over under for the total sum of the seeds to make the final four. And that price is minus 130, under 9.5. So you can bet under 9.5 for the sum of the total teams seeds to make the final four. So if you get like a 1, 2, 3, 3, that pays. 1, 1, 2, 2 obviously pays. There's a lot of combinations. And in a perceived top heavy field, I think if you do that, again, the sum of the final four seeds under 9.5.
All right, that'll do it for us. Live show Thursday morning. We'll have our updated. These lines will move, so there will be some line movement on Thursday morning, especially. We'll have our favorite bets, some more insight. We'll have some more injury updates. We'll be can celebrate Christmas together. And then live show Saturday at the same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Player prop show live Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Make sure you check that out. Thanks to Duck, Mike for joining me. Thanks to our producer David on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe. You know the drill. Tell a friend, tell an enemy. Leave a 5-star review if you have a second. Really helps us out, especially in March. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck on all of your wagers. Check out the Action Network app for all of our picks, all the content coming out. I got a lot more coming. Thanks again for tuning in. Love you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy March. Cheers.